First, if you can talk about why we're looking at your hands.
Very nice, yeah. It's not a coquetry. You understand coquetry, what it means. I prefer depersonalization of the architect than to represent myself by my own avatar, existing avatar. So I prefer a part of myself without to be the face of myself. When you become brown of yourself, you have to repeat yourself. Mm-hmm. It's a condition of the post-capitalism, and this kind of copism of cannibalism of yourself. And it's important to develop many labels now. You are not the only one. It's a profusion of personality. Yeah. It's a personality disorder. Yeah. And to develop a personality disorder is a way to be an architect and to have several possibilities of infiltration. So that's why it's not coffee on the cigarette, it's coffee on croissant. It's a jarmusch too.
About your work, the thing that is incredibly intriguing about it as a contemporary practice is that it's not geometry-based per se, nor is it scenario-based per se, but it seems like that there's a four-part relationship of desire, technology, scenario, and geometry.
Three. You focus on the center point of our work. We love to tell stories. First, we are telling stories. The premise of the science fiction. Mm-hmm. I'm really interested how the stories are talking about the truth through a narration, which is not directly the reproduction of the reality. We use the context of your society. You need to implement the stories, not in the past, not in the futures, but if you want that the stories infiltrate, and be the vector of the transformation, you have to use the background or the background of the society where you are. Mm-hmm. I think an architect has to move a little bit.
Yeah.
Also in this possibility of telling stories.
Yeah.
And in this case, when you tell stories, to find the way of the technology of today. Yeah. To create the condition of a process of reality inside the stories itself.
When you work in Thailand or when you work in some other place, it's not that you try to look at it totally externally or to try to get to the truth of the place that you're in, but more that you use technology as a way to tell a story about the place.
It's something which is not from the context.
Yeah,
of course. It's something also to avoid to be felt by the context. You have an empathy. Mm-hmm. You have a self-consciousness. You are affected. That is the perfect. You are corrupted by the situation, and at the same time you try to be at distances from the situation because you bring your own ability to understand the situation from somewhere else.
Yes.
So you accept this confusion. In any situation, you could avoid to see the reality as a pure strategy of naivety. Or you could deny the reality, or you could also dramatize. You understand dramatization, but the dramatization of the reality by using the fears. Our work is trying more to objectivize the reality and to take the context as it is. To make visible what the materiality of the situation. I cannot change the climate of Bangkok, which is one of the most polluted of the world for many reasons. I know the reason. I cannot promote a perfect clean architecture in the context where the pollution is chemical of the city. So it's clear that the project we did in Bangkok is to use this situation, to use the dust as acceptation of this biotop. Of course, the critics of the failure of the urbanism, or the failure of the human development. But I'm not moral. I don't want to make lessons. I'm not teaching morality. I just want to use the biotop as it is, using a context as the first matrix of the transformation. Each context develops its own reality. We are no more like in the 50s or the 60s. jumping on the moon, to jump by a Odyssey with a starship, dreaming to escape.
Yeah.
We have no more the possibility to escape of the condition of the failure.
Yeah.
We are inside the system of our own destruction and reconstruction. Finally, it creates a condition of the acceptation of our own biotope. If we put ourselves in the right place, we could renegotiate the position. And this renegotiation with the other species, natures and wild. There's nothing is wild now. You know about the polar bear. You heard about the polar bear in the North Pole, where because of the pollution of the territories where they are reproduction themselves, it's an incredible pollution coming from the Arctic Stream and the Gulf Stream, which are carrying a lot of not only rubbish but also carbonic gas and more and plutonium coming from the submarine, the Russian submarine, the Russian cemetery submarine. Yeah, it's incredible. And because of that, the polar bear, 5% of the polar bear now are becoming hermaphrodites. They modify their sexuality, they modify their physiology to survive to this new condition. So it's interesting how this position of the polar bear interests me. They are not denied, they are not dramatized, they just mutate themselves as a Darwinism to accept the new condition, to survive in this new condition.
Wait, one last thing. Do you believe in symbolism today?
Symbolism is something which could reduce the reality to an iconography. It is no, we are not symbolism at all, because we implement phenomenological inside the symbolism. So biotope is interesting. It's more territories, in the sense of territories, where there's multiple disorder inside the territory. It cannot be reduced to on one way. You need to weave the relationship, to weave the weaving is not symbolism. You have many entrants, many possibility of reading, many possibility of to be affected by your situation, and it's interesting how to weave themselves without to lose one inside the way to produce the building, to keep intact from the beginning to the end this complex story with all the characters, and to avoid to minimize or to reduce this reality to one way. Technological way, or biological way, or constructing way, to keep intact there's many entrants, even at the end of the building, so to let open the possibility of the narration to go further, even if the building is constructed. That is really important for me, especially with the building we are creating, which try to let the doors open to unfinished stories.